if you got some, if you got something to say, you know what I mean. I'm hearing a little bit of things going on, but we go good. But yo, listen, what's up, guys? What's happening?
Man,
what's going on? What's new? What's new in the world, man?
Doing some very
new things.
A lot of new things going on. I feel myself in a place of transition.
Yeah, like what?
I don't know, man. For the last 6 months, I don't know what happened. I don't have conversations. I don't argue with anyone like anymore. I just kind of walk away.
What?
Yeah.
You?
Nah.
Like, I don't care.
No way.
No, I'm serious. No. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised with the conversations I've been having and where in the headspace I've been in for the last, since the last couple of podcasts. Like, it started with the last podcast, but in these 6 months, man, I've been.
No, what's up? Talk about it, man. Let's catch up real quick.
Yeah.
Why?
What's up?
I don't know, man. I just got to the point where I really don't care anymore.
Oh no.
Like,
are you okay?
No, I'm great. No. It's not suicidal or anything. Here's the thing. It's like, I guess when you have like a life change, like, okay, so when you start like Christianity at 23, the pendulum is all the way up here. Like, and then I've been doing it for about 20 years. So gradually from that point to now, the pendulum has gotten back to center. It hasn't swung all the way to the sinful side yet. Not yet. I didn't say yet.
I
didn't say yet.
Wow,
I didn't mean to say yet.
So that means you're ready for a trip.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I've got.
Yo, I can't believe it's Dwayne talking. Yo, I can't believe Dwayne is saying this. All right.
Yeah, like pendulum, not quite middle yet, kind of like left, right, to center. But it's got to a point where I really don't like. If anybody has questions, I'm going to answer them.
Gotcha.
But if you're gonna, if I'm gonna say something that's clear and you're like, I don't get it, and it's just like it's not, I'm not gonna argue with you because I'm not. I don't care.
Yo,
I don't really
let me
care.
ask you
I
this.
think that's just maturity, bro.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily.
Different. That is maturity.
I think that's just
No.
maturity.
Well,
You can't take on every argument.
It's not. Well, it's maturity, but I'm saying. Not caring, I don't know if that's maturity. That's more like Dwayne back in 04.
But I'm saying,
Yo, let me ask you this.
No.
Let me
Hold on. Before we leave there, don't you think it's not caring about being right?
Well, because
if you have in the topic, then you obviously care about it,
right.
And then somebody comes and says something, and now you're like, I don't need to be right about this. I know I don't need to end this argument with a boom.
Right. It's not necessarily me not being right because I'll make sure everything that I say has evidence, but I don't need to be right to you.
That's what I mean.
Right. Yeah. So it's just basically if you want to go this way,
right.
All right.
I'm gonna have to leave.
Go ahead, man. I'm gonna let you rock.
I think
that is maturity.
Bro.
Yeah,
that is maturity.
I'm gonna let you rock.
I think that maturity word too is kind of like when somebody say it to you, you're like, wait, I'm mature? What you mean? You know what I mean? It's like an automatic defense that comes up.
I've been there.
But but I think but do you think that's because of aging? Like what happened? Is it an event that happened? Is it because you're getting older or?
Well, no, it's a couple of events. So, younger where you almost kind of put on, and not to sway the conversation over here, but you kind of put on a uniform. It's like, you're new. You put on a Christian uniform. It's like, well, this is how they act, so I have to act this way, even though in their most private lives they don't act that way.
Right.
But it's like a uniform that you put on Sunday. So you try to put on that uniform, and then you try to do things that the people that you look up to would look at your life and be like, yeah, that's good, you should do that. But then you kind of find out, even though you're doing it, it's not really what you would have for yourself. You may have to tool it for yourself.
But it also take a lot of work, right, to keep that up.
Yeah, and you can't, because there's a lot of times, like people, especially when it comes to marriage, a lot of times in their marriage is a shamble, but they're trying to keep the uniform going, and it's like you can't really keep that uniform going, especially when you're 15, 20 years in. Yeah. So you can keep that uniform for like the first 5, but when people start to change, like people start to, I'm literally a different person I was from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So
no, but you should be though. You know what I mean? I think everybody should be, and I think too, like I could if I could piggyback off what you're saying, I think that uniform concept that you're talking about happens in relationships too. You know what I mean? Like when you first get in relationships or whatever the case may be, there's this thing that you put on to say like, yo, you know what? I want to make the best impression or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I still want to know.
After a while, the uniform doesn't fit anymore.
Well, okay,
Facts.
news.
But I want to know what event happened because Dwayne talking like this.
Well, no,
It's news. I need to know a
it
specific
does
event.
seem like there's not a
No, it's not a specific event.
Yeah,
Oh.
It's been happening for years, but it's just,
okay.
it's just as of late. I think it started with the conversations that we were having. So the conversation that we had last time was, I think, around like polygamy.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So me, maybe 10, 15 years ago, would not be able to have that conversation with anybody. Like I would be like, okay, thus saith the Lord this. That's it. That's what it says. So that's what I have to do. So, but now I've said, basically, regardless of who watches this podcast, I'm still going to speak honestly. Or be my most authentic self here. Not to use that for sin, but to be my most authentic self, so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
So, as far as uniform is concerned, because you brought up a good point. So, especially like in marriages, originally I got married. How was I? I was like, it was 2007, so I was 26. At 26, you start off with the whole. If you're in church, it's marriage. The definition of marriage is a monogamous relationship for life. There are people within the church at some point when they get to when they start off that way, but then when people start to change, they start to get to year 15, they start to get a little bit. They find out that they weren't absolutely honest when it came to that. You knew it's like you're not monogamous at all, dude. So that's not a or ma'am, both of you. That's not a agreement that you should have started off with, knowing yourself.
I got a question. Is monogamous a Western concept? Since you're saying that, no, I'm not. Don't say it. We're starting to see Rick. Don't say that. No, but since you mentioned it, no, we didn't make a vow. Actually, I want y'all to see it. I want y'all to see a video. I want y'all to see a video.
We want happiness in our life. We don't want to talk about this.
Listen. I want y'all to watch a video.
All right.
And she's speaking on some good points. I'm not gonna say a word. We'll just watch it, and then
all right,
y'all go ahead.
Let's see what she says.
Since we have the audience can see which would be good.
That as black men age, is always expanding, and the exact opposite is true for black women. As we age, doesn't matter how much money we accumulate, our degrees or professional accolades, the reality is that our marriage and partnership market value is depreciating with every passing year. No matter how good we look, no matter how fit we are, men are still seeing primarily our presumed dwindling fertility as a knock against us. And speaking of fertility, that is another reason that I want younger black women to seek marriage and partnership in college or right after, if that's what they choose. Because the number of college-educated black men is so low when compared to black college-educated women that we're all going to be targeting the same small pool of men. And as we heard today, on most campuses, there's like 7 black women students for every 1 black man student. Y'all do the math. So here's my advice. If you are a young black woman in college and you know in your heart and in your head that you want to prioritize family, I suggest that you simultaneously pursue that MRS degree right along with that BA or JD. Because the handful of black college-age men that actually do desire to get married soon, and they do share that value system, and family is a priority for them too, y'all, that is an incredibly small pool, and it's shrinking as you get older. And by the time you reach my age, 40, you will be faced with different choices relating to life partnership and motherhood. Now, I'm not saying that delaying marriage or motherhood is a bad option, but it's one that comes with its own consequences. And our women deserve to know on the front end of their decision-making instead of on the back half.
Man, that's a heavy load. That's a heavy load of what you just
Okay,
said.
I just got to put it out there, though. I don't know if that is a cultural difference.
Go ahead, talk about it.
No, I'm saying I don't think that's the cultural difference. I think that's men and women. I don't think you have to necessarily
Be black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I don't
I agree
think
with
you
that,
have
facts.
to like
Mhm.
yeah. I think every culture is facing that in general, across the world and so on. But as far as what she's saying, yeah, I think it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a lot of I think it may be for different reasons than what she's saying. It may be not necessarily because the guys are looking at them as less fertile, but I think women generally become harder as well because they're more like they've probably been with more guys and have more bad experiences and stuff, generally speaking. So I think they get to be a little bit more tough. So even when a good guy comes along, they don't recognize that until it might be too late. So I think that may be part of it.
I think this is a lot to be said there. I mean, I'll put it like this. I think that's like some of the best advice I've probably heard, especially coming from a woman. But you know, like she's targeting young black women, and I think that it's tough because when you look at young black women or just black women in general, like, and I'm definitely not speaking on behalf of all black women or black women, but
we have women in this audience.
Yeah. So we're gonna definitely get checked.
their opinions.
I stand to be corrected. So, but no, like I think that there's a lot of women who actually do the work. Like they dotted more I's and crossed more T's than probably any other group of women. I'm not saying all of them have, but most of them have. They've done it. They've heard it from guys like Kevin Samuel. They hear it from women like Iyanla. They go to therapy. They do the work. They do the mental health work. They do the spiritual route. They go to church. But yet that situation is still there. So it's like, well, what is the issue? Like, if they're doing the work, again, I'm not saying all of them are, but there's a good majority that seems to be doing the work, but yet it's like you're still faced with this situation.
Okay.
Let me throw this facts out there and see if we are able to check this real quick, right? In the world, like how many women are born to men? Meaning like are there more women babies than men babies? And what is that percentage like?
I believe, I think that's where we are.
Is there? Are we able to figure that out and quantify, and research that?
Usually,
like, is there more women born than boys?
No, I don't know.
More girls born than boys?
There might be, but I believe it's more so because of the harmful life activities of men that they wind up dying quicker than women.
No, we're talking about like
no. What I'm saying is I don't know what the birth rate is, but I'm saying the reason that there may be more women now. Is because some of us don't take care of ourselves very well.
Well, let me just tell you this. I've been hearing that fact. Women are 7-1 to men for at least 20 years now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not the first time that I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I feel her with what she's saying. But if we go back to the beginning of like in our population, are there more women than men?
Probably. But I think there's a couple of other well, of course that was a short clip, but I think there are a couple of things that we have to consider before making an assessment on everything that she says or whether it's right or true.
Yeah, what are the assumptions?
Well, a couple of assessments. One, you have to kind of figure out what women are seeing when marriage is put out there. Like, is marriage something that's beneficial to women across the board? Do they have, what's the division of work? What's the division of work in marriage? Are they seen to have to work for more? Or when those women go to these, I believe she was speaking of black men. So when these women are going to college with the few black men that are there, are the few black men that are there actually looking for marriage or just to jump off?
Probably not marriage.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if they're
that
not
percentage is probably mad low.
right, so if they're not looking for marriage at all, telling them to get married younger unfairly puts the ball in their court when the people that they're trying to get married to aren't trying to marry them. I think in that case, if those percentages are too low, and also, and this is the main thing, women are naturally hypergamous. So basically, if there's a woman with a degree or a higher degree, she's not trying to get with somebody, or it's not good, it's not financially responsible for her to get with somebody that only has a high school diploma. So, you know, those are just things I would have to think about.
So you're saying women are not likely to get with men that are lesser than them?
Not if they're smart.
That's I like to hear from some women in the audience. Like, is that the case? What is will women get with a man that don't necessarily have their status or financial capabilities? Is that the case?
You can say no. Go ahead. It's all right.
You know, Yelena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is this on?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it depends. It depends on experience and age. If we're talking about college, I think it might happen because you're not smart enough to know what
let me ask you one caveat. Let me ask you. Okay, so it's not so much that they have it already, but you see in that man the ability or the potential to go out and get it. So me personally, when I got married to my wife, she was making more money than I did.
Okay.
When we got married, that quickly changed.
Okay.
But she always said, I see in you the potential to, you know, if I need it, you're going to go out and get it. So yeah, I guess that's
But it's also a luck. It's like a soccer game, you know, like when you're in college, I believe if you are, you know, if you have that extra lucky card and you meet someone in whom you can see that, like you see that potential, then that's great. Then it doesn't matter really whether it's high school degree or he's also striving to get something more, you know. But as you grow older, I don't know, you tend to be more picky, you know, for no reason, but you're just overwhelmingly worried maybe. Like you are, I think we tend less to be present in the present, like we're less aware of the moment and we are just thinking we're far away in the future because we have these fears. So fear of getting old, fear of getting old and being alone, fear of getting old, not having enough money.
right.
So who's going to be there with you, right? So I think maybe the trick as we are growing older is to overcome those fears. And then you can start seeing that in people. You can see that potential again. So
And I also wonder what she meant. Like what they say, black men are more desirable as we get older. I would just like to know what the factors of that desirability would be.
Well, black men are more desirable.
Yeah, I would like to know. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying I happen to be one. I want to be desirable. I just want to know why.
Is that
like
true?
what's the? No, I just want to know what the fact. Like,
Tell me more about my eyes.
Yeah, tell me more about my eyes. Like what would be the reason?
Well,
exactly?
well,
Well,
one,
hold on.
I can say is maturity too.
Yeah,
I
well,
can say maturity has a lot to do with that.
I think what she was getting at had to do with like age. So as a man ages, there's no knock on him because of his getting older.
Okay.
I think that was the main point she was trying to get at. But for the women, as they got older, literally that particular aspect is what made them less desirable.
Well, that's assuming, yeah, and that's also assuming that the man actually likes or wants children.
Yeah, all of that, of course.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
you know, because some of them are just like, well, you can't have kids. It's like, nigga, you don't want them anyway. Like, why are you asking? Like, why is that a conversation piece? I'm like, you know.
But I think as far, I mean, if you're talking about in terms of like, in order to be with that person so you can have a family, then
Right.
yeah, generally men earn more as they get older as well. They usually have more potential to create revenue. So that is also a thing.
Okay.
So again, they'll become more suited towards that particular thing that you're after, which is the family. as they get older. So that would not be a knock against them. Whereas for the female, the fertility is considered to be reduced as they get older. So that's,
obviously.
yeah, that's just, I think those are the factors, really.
To Yelena's point, I think that circumstances are very important, because I think sometimes we kind of like pin everything under one umbrella, right? And think that this is what happens with everybody. But I would say, like, I've come across a lot of women that doesn't mind building with a man if a man doesn't necessarily have certain things. So you know what I mean? And I think that the women that we're talking about that doesn't have that patience is the woman that is portrayed on media as the trophy women. You know how it is. You know what I mean? Like, here's the woman that you have on your arm, but once you get her, right, you quickly realize she ain't really that trophy for real. He just look good. You know what I mean? And for us, it's a little deceiving because we're physical. We look at the physicality. Like, there's certain things we look at, and sometimes I think that's the same thing that plagues us. But remember a while ago when we was talking about polygamy, right? Yeah. And I was saying, and no, I'm going to bring this back up. I'm going to bring this back. Okay. Because to this point, and I'm going to throw this here. I'm going to bring this back up because when she was saying that, and I remember saying something a while ago, and I'm going to try to paraphrase it. And I was saying, and this is what I asked: how many women are born to men? And the reason,
so I looked it up.
Okay.
51%.
Hold on. Hold that, because I need that fact, right?
Okay, go ahead.
The reason I was saying that, because whenever you bring up polygamy, everybody always thinks sex, right? That's what people think about. No, but that's what people think about. Like, everybody thinks sex, and I'm gonna throw you right in there. Right?
Sex is important.
Everybody thinks sex, and we know sex is important. All right, good. We're off that. No. All right, real talk. Here's the deal.
Okay.
If a man want to have sex, he's gonna go have sex. He doesn't need polygamy for that. So it's not. I'm not talking about sex when I'm talking about polygamy.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is the climate of this world right now.
Okay.
Anything goes. And the percentage of women that are single to men is astronomical.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so now, what do you do in this situation when a woman is looking for a family? There's not enough guys. I'll throw that to you.
Well, it's a loaded question. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
It's an honor. I believe there's more men being born than women, just by a slight.
There are more men.
But like you said, there are some places and countries in the world where like a lot of the men go to war, and places like Russia where when they're at war, a lot of men die. So places like Russia have a lot more women than men.
Got it.
Just to put that out there. But when I was younger, when I was like, I don't know, in my 21, 22s, I realized that life is more than monogamy. And because like you said, there are some places in the world where, monogamy is not a thing, and they thrive because they learn how to build community. It takes a village, right? So when I was 25, I realized that I met a partner, and we were in a polyamorous relationship where she had a partner, she had a girlfriend, and I was a partner. And the idea was to build a community. I find another partner and things like that. And it didn't work out.
Please. Yeah. I want you to sit on that a little bit, because I think the audience. No, because every time I bring it up, they go crazy on me. But I want to hear from somebody that actually experienced it.
Right. Yeah.
Give us the deal. Yeah. What happened? What was the dynamics?
So it didn't work out. The reason why it didn't work out, because we were all immature. We're talking 25, right? And she was 2 years younger than me. But another reason why it didn't work out was, because of the lack of maturity, she whenever she had an issue with her girlfriend, it didn't matter whether I was rubbing her feet or not. It felt like I was the lashing tool. I was the one that was getting the emotions, right? If she's having a fight with her girlfriend, then I'm automatically part in that fight. So I never stopped the idea of polyamory. I never let that discourage me. But what I did was, I got out of the relationship, and I became celibate for a year. Okay. Yeah, because I had to re-ground myself in the idea of who I was.
Gotcha.
And it was beautiful because, just detaching yourself from all of the mundane things and going back to nature, tree hugging, right? Going back to nature and just being with yourself again. Something beautiful happened. Like I fell in love with myself in ways that I never imagined myself to be. And it was not until like I had this thing where like anytime I became lonely in that mission, I would like look up to the moon and I would be like, yo, I know my partner is looking at the moon right now too. Like I found ways to kind of like encourage myself to not give up on this mission that I had to really understand myself. And it was beautiful because I feel like the second I got like over it was the second the universe brought me my partner, my wife right now. You know, and she was on the same mission as me, trying to understand herself, all of herself before she met, she met somebody.
Wait, so are you and your wife
So
polyamorous?
it has a beautiful thing about it, right?
Uh-huh.
So, I've been proposing to my wife ever since I met her. Like, I'm just like, yo, I love you. I'm going to marry you one day. But I never really finished the conversation with her about me being polyamorous. It came up on the first date, and she was like, you know what? I guess we're gonna be friends, but I'm like, I bet, you think we're gonna be friends?
Well, no, kudos to you for bringing that up because there are a lot of people that are polyamorous that they're partners.
No, that's
you
like
know
I
that they
feel
are.
like
So
the first date always has to be of what I like, what I don't like, and it's you what you like, what you don't like. And I felt like that was an important thing to bring up because I don't want to like blindside anybody. But she was like, we're gonna be friends. It didn't work out that way. But it wasn't until I really wanted to marry her that I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to bring up this conversation again, because I didn't feel like the conversation was complete. And I kid you not, my wife imports wine, natural wine, and distributes wine. So she has all different types of people in her circle. She has monogamous people, she has polyamorous people, she has queer people, all types of people. And I kid you not, we were on the Belt Parkway. She came from like. Where's Bernie Sanders from? Virginia. Virginia?
Vermont.
She came from Vermont on a wine trip where a couple of her friends, polyamorous couple actually, owned a winery, right? And we're driving in the car, and I'm passenger, she's driving. And she's like talking about how beautiful it was to experience a couple that was in polyamory versus some of her monogamous couples, whether they're straight or queer, that are just ratchet in the darkness, and how beautiful it was to see that polyamorous couple. And she opened up to me and I cried that day. Where she was like, you know what? Like, if you feel like you can love me unconditionally and also love somebody unconditionally, who am I to not believe you? You've loved me so much. Like, you've loved me, my cup runneth over in all of this love. And I kid you not, I cried that day. And that was the day when I knew I was going to marry my wife. And now I'm in a monogamous relationship. I have no problem with it. The future is not set in stone, but we're not worried about the future right now. We're worried about building each other, And
I was going to ask you a question. Do you believe, do you think it's because there's a sense of honesty that polyamorous couples have? Like, you have to be extremely honest in order to be polyamorous, as opposed to somebody who's saying that they're monogamous but may not internally be that.
My question is the purpose, right? What's the reason for it? Because, like you said, there could be so many different things, right? Like the seven like I practice Nichiren Buddhism, and it's all about the fundamental, like the multiple fundamentals of darkness, right?
Right.
And one of them can be, lust or like going for flesh so much, So I feel like it's all about what's the whole goal behind this relationship, right? Or this bond.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm very interested in that, in your perspective, and in your story and what you've been through, because whenever this topic is put up, everybody thinks it's sex, and my point has always been, like, guys, you realize men been having sex way before polygamy. Like we don't need that title to have
My
sex.
thing is, like, if I want 20 kids, do you want 20 kids? Why would I put your body?
There has to be an agreement.
So my thing to you is, like you said, a great point. It's purpose. So my point of dialogue has always been, all right, what is the purpose? If you're going to do that lifestyle, or if we are doing that lifestyle, or if is the climate that we're living in actually pushing us back towards that type of of not to say that pushing us like we don't have a choice, but kind of like pointing us in the direction of community as opposed to
Right.
selfless.
Right. Yeah.
Is the climate pushing us towards that, for us to be more conscious of that?
Yeah, it all depends because right now, like I said, like I'm in a great relationship. I met my wife. Like we didn't go to college, but what we did was when we've been in hospitality forever, multiple different certificates. My wife is a Psalm level 3 or 4. Like I've bartended at some of the best institutions in the world. And what we did have was we had that goal of building each other. So when I met my wife, the joke is like I tell her all the time. I met her and I'm like I'm in love with the person that you are when you're 30. You get what I'm saying? Like when I met my wife when we were like 26, 27, I said that all the time. Like I'm like I see you in your 30s and that's the person I'm in love with. So let's get there together, and we got married, we just bought a house, we got 2 cars, we just got like a baby on the way, and it's the best thing I've ever done. But I took that time to get to know myself before, getting into a relationship, and she did the same thing too.
Yeah, I think the main point of the whole thing is just being honest with who you're with. If polygamy is something that you happen to be into, just let somebody know. Even if you've been married for a few years and you started off one way and you feel yourself veering to another end, you have to have that talk with before, or you don't have that talk, you go on and try to do it yourself and you ruin the marriage anyway.
Of course.
So yeah, so it's just trying to figure out who you with.
I like to hear from.
I had something to say. Just briefly back to what we were talking about, women getting older. As a woman of a certain age, don't say anything.
I'm not going to do it.
But as a woman as I'm in my mid 40s now, it's like you can afford to be picky until you can't afford to be picky. Okay.
Talk about it.
It's like, when you're younger, and I also have an advanced degree. I have a master's degree, went to college, grad school, like the whole 9, great career working in HR. But, and I do have my children. But, I'm not necessarily looking for a partner to fulfill me or like to have more kids or necessarily like build me up. I'm a Black woman in therapy. So, you know what I mean? I'm doing the work. As you said, I'm putting in the work, but it's like the expectations that you had like in your 20s and 30s of a man, and he had to have this and he had to be this. After a while, you can't afford that anymore. You cannot afford that down and letting you miss out on great options.
So let me ask you this, just a question. When you say you can't afford it, right? Is that because you're realizing that those lists, these things don't matter and they're a bit superficial? Or go ahead.
It really doesn't matter, because the prospect I'm looking at is that in a few years I don't want to be 50 and alone. That's just basically it. I don't want to be 50 and alone. Like my kids are finishing college, they're going and doing their own thing. I don't want to be 50 and alone. And for that not to happen, it's not like if I need to just like get the dregs.
Right.
Well, right, and you don't deserve that either. Yeah.
I'm not trying to dip down into the dregs.
Not for you.
But at the same time, I'm not going to shoot down the brother that is working, has a decent job. Oh, you know what? Well, he has to be like a corporate CEO because I have a master's degree and I work in HR and I'm this and I work for this employer and I have this much money in my bank account. So I need someone that's gonna add that.
Well,
what's crazy, because that's the narrative that's being pushed though.
Yeah, it's the narrative. Like you have to bring to the table.
Like the narrative is on media is like, hey, women, have all these lists of things you want, but do none of it yourself. Like you don't, like all the lists that you're putting, that you don't even have half of what you're asking a man to be, right? But you're putting all this list. But I'm not saying it for the older women, because the older women are a little bit more mature. But the younger women, though, that's the narrative that's being pushed to them.
Yeah, and it's like they're not putting in the work. Like I'm in my 40s. I've put in the work. I've been through, a long-term relationship, with the father of my kids for over 15 years. I got out of that. I tried dating, but then I had to realize, like, I'm not good for anybody if I'm not good for myself. You know, so
Okay.
I had to, do the therapy, put in the work, do what I had to do. So it's not like I'm necessarily looking for a partner to like, fulfill me and, bring me to my self-actualization. I'm putting in the work for that. I want someone that's going to be a companion, that I can talk to, that I can unwind after like a long day, and we can just talk and, just do whatever. It's not necessarily about, like, what is he like bringing to the table to, fulfill me and, do all that. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be alone at a certain age.
Well, I'll put it like this, and this is going to be a little unlike what I've said in the past, and I'll just put it out there. At this point, I would say you may need to open up your dating pool a little. So this is what I'm saying. I know a woman who's in her 60s. Multiple men have tried to talk to her. She's attractive. But they've all been like non-black men. Like no black men have spoken. But they've all been non-black men. So I say, hey man, you might just need to open up that dating pool, and you don't clamor for people that tolerate you or you have to work for. You allow people in that want to be around you. So if there's somebody coming to you, and I have black children, and I kind of mourn that I may have I wanted to keep that going. Like I wanted black grandchildren too. Okay. That might not happen. It may not happen. So, but I'm cool with that because I have one child that's dating age right now. So she's going out, she's dating, she's having lovely times, but the worst dates that she's had, and this is only anecdotal evidence, not saying this is for everybody, but the worst dates that she's had has been with people that look like her. So in your particular case, you out there, you spry, you doing your thing and all that stuff. You may need to open that dating pool a little bit. Drop it like it's hot.
Are you saying she should date other couples?
I was just gonna say the same thing, that there seems to be this unspoken rule with a lot of black women that you have to be with a black man, and I'm not sure where that came from. I'm sure that it probably goes back to slavery days and all sorts of stuff. But I think maybe that might be one of the things that needs to heal. And talking about being okay with yourself first, as you said, Keegan, just kind of dealing with that, leaving that behind, and then moving forward. And like you said, just opening up that pool, because I think that's
I wish you didn't have to leave it behind. I wish you don't. I wish you didn't. I wish there was a point where everybody was all right and we were able to do that, because every other people group does that except for us. But unfortunately, that's where we are now, and I just have to go with where we are. So
I also think that, to the point of a lot of young women are not taught to do the work. I know you said that a lot of women are doing the work. I think a lot of people are checking off boxes in a kind of intellectual way, but relationships are not that. I know young women who are in their early 20s and they've checked every box. I have my degree, I go to therapy, I use I instead of you, in arguments and all this kind of stuff, and they're not having success. Or, the issue that I see with a lot of dating apps is, I think it's like a 12% success rate, but everybody flocks to these dating apps. So what's that about? It's about the algorithms, it's about the marketing, it's a business model to just keep people on there. So I think that's another issue that probably is complicating the outcomes for people. It's like this dream that people keep chasing. Exactly. It's the same people. In fact, I know someone who came across the same person that they were trying to date last year, and like, wait a minute, I just saw this dude, so.
Yeah. I think the most unfortunate thing is that, like, dating is a game. Like it's
is it though?
Like you said, it's a business, it's a game.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a game.
Right.
Because the thing, but the sad thing is that there's people who really want to focus on marriage. The problem is when you have single people who want to focus on marriage, they're put in the same pool of people who are dating, who are playing this game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, not everybody wants to play the game.
Not everybody wants to play the game, right. But it's overshadowed by everyone who's playing the game.
Yeah.
You know, like for instance, like and then what happens is dating has become sort of like, you know, there's like these rules, these different ethics that people sort of create within our society, and then people start creating these like senseless arguments. Well, who should pay on the first date? Like, you know, they're just creating these. I'll say it's like
a real issue though. That's a real issue.
Really, is that really an issue? Is that really an issue? Who
that
pays
could
on
make
the
or
first
break
date?
the whole thing. Heck yeah.
But
So who pays on the first date?
Man, the guy pays on the first date.
I just want to be sure. Yeah.
But what I'm saying,
Hey, I'm just checking.
but what I'm saying is like, why is that even an issue? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we make that like?
No, because she insists on paying one time.
So is that what really caused?
That's what happened. One woman was like, "I'm paying. You not paying for me."
And then all of a sudden, all the guys said the women should pay.
Well, yeah, they were like, "Oh, you gonna pay? Sure." And then they're like, "Yo, oh, you gonna let me pay? And you really gonna let me pay?"
Do you think we have a problem with order? Like, what does order look like in our society right now, yo?
Man, this thing is like, this world's crazy.
No, word. Because you know it's funny, man. Like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, our previous generation would say crazy, right? And then as we get older, we say that the generation
Next
coming after us is crazy, right?
Sure.
And everybody's
because they are.
We are getting crazier and crazier. But what I'm saying is like is order still a factor in this society? And like, is there an order to things? And should we follow that order?
I don't believe anybody's really following it.
So if there's an order, so let me just say that so I could just let you guys go off with it. If there's an order, what is that order? Is that order tied in with your spiritual awareness, with your religious affiliations? Like, what is that order for everybody, you know, in this room? And then do we follow it? Does it work? Does it make sense? Because right now everything goes right. Like the guy can decide that he wants to be, and because like, you know how it is now, if you say something, now you're getting misinterpreted and all that stuff. But a guy can decide today, like, he wants to be a woman, go play in a woman's sport, beat the hell out of the woman, right? And then really be considered a woman, and nobody has anything to say about that, right? Like, I could decide right now. They have
something to say, but they can't.
I'm a 15-year-old girl and go play high school basketball, and then and then go to bat and tell people like, I am a 15-year-old girl, so I need to go back to high school and play basketball. I'm gonna demolish these girls, right? So we know we're in a temperature where it's like everything goes. So where is order? Aspect, and in terms of relationships, like, is there an order that we should be following? Is there a fundamental thing that we should be following?
I believe there's a fundamental thing, because the problem, I mean, obviously there is a that we're facing. You know, the woman wouldn't be making that video if there wasn't a call for order or a need to establish some kind of order. You know, I think that, you know, like when we look at the order of like you said, in terms of like the spiritual part of it, and like and I threw in the whole thing about dating being a game, like let's just be for real, like okay, I'll put it like this: finding your spouse and being part of this dating game, it's two separate things. You don't have to be in a dating situation to even find your spouse. Like, let's look at the church. How many people in church are actually like when I say in the dating game, I'm talking about, well, all right, tonight I'm going out with Tracy. I just met Lisa. I'm going to take her out next Saturday, and I'm doing this, that. There's hardly anybody in the church is doing that. But yet they found their spouse.
I don't.
They're not doing that. What do you mean? Like,
I mean, the majority of people. Okay. If you look at some people who have found their spouse in a church situation, a lot of you notice not many of them are in a dating, like playing that dating game. Not many. Okay. You know, and then
talk to.
But the same way they found their spouse is going to be the same way somebody who found their spouse in the club. They found somebody, regardless of whether they were playing the game or not. you know, they found someone, you know, so like, but now it just seems like we just pull everything. There's like this inclusion where we just put everything together, and like there's this type of, we put extra pressure on, you know, especially singles, and saying, oh, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, that, and the third, in order to find your spouse, your soulmate, your this, that, and the third. And then we realize the math isn't mathing. Obviously, that's not working. Something is working. We just probably threw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of that, when you speak on that order.
So let me ask you guys this question: that when you're saying dating and the pressures of that, right? Should, like, we talk about marriage as often, right? Is that necessarily a requirement for everybody?
Well, no, we know.
You know, like, do they need to be married to have a great relationship?
Well, here's the thing. We know that it's not. But when you start talking about the meat and potato stuff about marriage, like life, when we start talking about where money's going to go when I die, when we start talking about allocation of funds and things of that nature.
True, but a person that's not married can have that. Like, two partners can have that.
Well, no, you can have that, but it's not as easy. So, DMX,
like a will, if you live a will.
DMX, right? when he died, he was with the mother of his last child.
Right.
When he died, she didn't get anything. She got nothing.
He didn't set it in the will.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, you know, that's when. So when I die, Shakia Hill gets the first call, because we, you know, because all of this stuff is in her name. We've been married for a whole bunch of years. She has all of my children, so that's how that's going to work. So if we weren't married, even if she had all of my children, there is no guarantee, and this has happened. There is no guarantee,
no, for sure, that
she's going to get what she's supposed to get.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why marriage is important as far as the state is concerned. We can have a great relationship without marriage, but when I go, you know, and money has to be allocated, the courts will be like, "Who are you? We don't know who you are."
And that leads me to this question, right?
Right.
Why in the world are black women, when they get older, devalued? You know what I'm saying?
Talk to me. What is it?
Because here's the thing, like, to me, that doesn't make sense.
So talk to me about devalue.
All right, if the black woman is older, she has her degrees, she has a job set, pension, everything is in place, and she's making more money than her younger self, or even women in the younger category. Why in the world are you looking at? And I'm just talking financially.
Talk to me, yeah.
But let's look at even physically. The woman's gonna be physically, like I said, they do the work. They do the physical work too. How many of these, like,
Matt,
these new look? Yes. You're not. Here's the thing. You're not talking to some
Matt been turned out. He's trying to tell us.
Look,
I know what Matt.
You're not talking to some old lady named Henrietta Agatha Wilson.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like these women now, these older, like these, I use the word older women, but these women that are like, let's just say 40 and up, they're cut from a different cloth than what these older women
to a bed.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, like, there's more, like,
they're taking care of themselves.
They're taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, I don't understand, like, why. I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe I'm different. I don't see how or why and somebody, as they get older, they become more devalued. The only thing I could think of is that we've industrialized everything. You know, like when you look at the entertainment industry, you know what they go after? They go after young people. Why? Because it's easier to persuade them. It's easier to coerce them. It's easier. So it's just like, you can't talk to a person who understands the business. You know, this is why certain like the old school heads don't really get all the burn, because they know the business. That's
a one. You know what? Now we're talking about balancing the scales a little bit. You know what I mean? Because let me just say this: is if yes, you're absolutely correct in saying that they go after the younger cats, right? But then again, if you're older right? You're more wiser. You're less likely to be impressionable, right? But business thrive with the younger people.
No, that's what they tell you.
No, in terms of
it actually does.
It does.
No, I
does.
disagree. I disagree.
No,
it
because
actually does.
because of the idea of I can impress upon a younger person
Right.
certain things that I can't not impress upon an older person. So therefore, I'm going to make more bank
No, you are.
in that regard, right?
I disagree.
Okay.
Well, let's look at. Okay, let's look it out.
Who buys records?
Who buys records?
Who buys
Yeah,
music?
new music.
New music?
Do you see
music.
any old people in front of concerts?
Nobody's, but no.
Right.
Wait,
all younger people.
Wait a minute. Let's look at show business.
Okay.
Okay, Denzel Washington.
No, but he's a staple. Come on, Matt.
Wait. We can't say
He's
that.
been doing that since like 20 years.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. They put in the work and his value. Look at Viola Davis.
No, I agree.
No.
What I'm saying is,
Hold on.
So what are we talking about?
What I'm saying is, I
That's
agree with you shouldn't devalue as a person get older, they take care of themselves. They're like fine wine. You know what I mean? I agree with that. You shouldn't devalue them. But what I'm saying is, it's a double edge a little bit, right?
Because in music,
if you're gonna make money, and if we're talking about entertainment, and you're gonna make money, even social media is for the youngins. It's for like young people thrive in that because it's impressionable. It's the idea of somebody likes me. If I look at, but with an older person, we don't really care about that.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is more money is going to be put, more investment is going to be put towards the young community because they're more impressionable. So it's almost
I have
like...
another word though.
Go ahead.
Passion.
Okay.
They have more.
Say passion.
They have more passion.
Nah.
They have more passion.
Do you mean to tell me there's a young actor that has more passion than Denzel Washington?
No, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
Maybe not. Yeah.
No,
Than Viola Davis?
This is what I'm saying.
Than Meryl Streep?
I'm not going to give you a particular example because I've never done this, but I'm just saying that when you have stories of people going through like what's that thing? Woodstock. You know what I'm saying? Imagine some old people doing Woodstock. You think that would have happened? Going over there, being all like, I'm staying over all this, in the mud, all that. Would they do that? No.
Yeah.
Heck no.
Probably not.
I have a family to take care of. They're not going to have.
I might slip a hip.
That's what I'm saying.
Might hurt my hip.
But in that same era, you had people overseas paying crazy amount of dollars to see a jazz artist perform.
I understand.
In Germany,
passion and loyalty are two different things.
Paris,
passion and loyalty are two different things.
So explain what you mean by passion, because
when I say that, it's going
because it's
extra mile.
It also can insinuate that older folks don't have passion.
No, of course they do.
Of course.
No,
what do you mean?
In fact, they have that seasoned passion. They have that one where it's like they're comfortable with what they like. You know what I mean? I like this. I like that. I know what I like. That's it. I'm good. I don't need any of that new stuff for me to feel good.
Okay, and that's precisely
what
why
I'm saying.
If I'm in entertainment, I cater to the younger crowd.
Yeah,
because of what you just said.
Right. But if I experiment a little, I do a little twang in my little thing,
the young kid is just gonna go crazy.
They're gonna appreciate it.
And that's what I want.
So I think
that's what
the real reason is
actually
is younger people have expendable income. If you're 15, 16, you're just taking care of yourself. You're 20, they have expendable income.
That too.
Ain't nobody buying anything new. If I don't know you already as an artist, I'm not buying your record. I'm
there
just I don't really mess with anything new because I have other things that I'm spending money on.
All of that.
But when I was like, I knew about everybody knew when I was 17. I was like, because I had that,
and you're spreading it around. You're like, I want some of this, I want some of that, I want some of, you did not have those limitations.
So getting back to Marissa real quick. Getting back to Marissa real quick, she probably pip up with somebody, be like, ooh, look at you all strapping with your strong legs. You look like you needed some water, some Gatorade, and you just keep going.
What just happened?
What
just happened?
What's going
on?
Dwayne, what's going on?
Ooh, 6 months is not long enough.
I'm confused.
6 months is getting off. You going off.
And then the young one,
wow.
Shut up, you know you do. You know you do.
Wait. Oh, now I get it. Marissa, you want a young one?
She want a young one. She want somebody with a strong back, nice strong back.
When I was like that age, like 33, like they're like, I'm like, I go out and they're like, oh, I'm like, how old are you? They're like, oh, they're like, oh, I'm 31. Like, proud of it. 31 strong, I'm proud. And I'm like, yeah, boo, no.
Marissa, come on. No, so don't do that to yourself.
No,
Marissa, you're missing out. Give that motherfucker a juice box.
because I can't deal with the foolishness. I'm just not at a certain level. I just can't deal with the nonsense. And I know what.
Listen to me. We're not talking about him staying.
Marissa,
we're talking about, we're talking about some womp. That's what we're talking about real quick. Come on.
He was saying you got to open up a little bit.
You got to open it up.
You got to open up the portal.
Sometimes you're not going to find Mr. Right. You're going to find Mr. Right now. I'm just saying.
Listen. We got tools for that.
Huh? You don't even know.
We got tools for that right now.
She said we got tools for that. Yep. Dependable. Listen, where we going?
Hey,
where we going?
Hey, a tool can't choke you.
Oh, damn. Oh, we going there.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Where are we going?
Where was the segue?
That's passion. Where
was the segue? I don't understand.
No, yo, Dwayne and Marissa started all this.
Dwayne, you need look out. We can handle this. This is what happens when I'm at home for 6 months. You can have a podcast.
Look at Maria.
You can change seats. You knew what you was getting.
Why you pass the mic, Marissa?
You can change seats.
Marissa, why you pass the mic?
I mean, he does have a point. He does have a point.
Wow.
All I want to say is like, I disagree with Ebony K. Williams. I see what she's doing and I respect it. Sometimes fear can be motivation, but I'm never one to use fear as a way of upward mobility, because I feel like that's a weapon that's used with no context. Like, you can use fear to like manipulate anybody. I think what she's saying is good. I disagree with her, but she's just giving like a warning, and sometimes it's good if it pertains to you. You know what I mean? Like, because personally, like, I love older women. I've always loved older women. I've dated a couple of younger women. It didn't work out because like it always felt like anytime I had the spiritual conversation or like talking about meditation or the power of positivity, it was always like a young woman trying to pretend like they understand what I'm talking about just to get closer to me. And I kid you not, I had this one young lady. She looked at me one day when I was speaking, and we had a beautiful night. We went to Prospect Park on a moonlit night, had a midnight like picnic, you feel me? Like, and I'm like, I'm on one. I'm like explaining, I feel like I was explaining like the laws of like, physics and shit like that, and yeah, transcendence and, and she's nodding her head and everything, you feel me? And I'm like, man, she's the one. Yo, I kid you not, a week after, she looked at me, she's like, yo, I had no idea what you was talking about. She was like, honestly, I was just saying that just to get closer to you. Since that day, I realized that I prefer an older woman. Like, I've always preferred an older woman because I feel like with me coming as an immigrant, understanding the struggles of my parents, I knew what I came to America for. And I feel like when you're younger, you're a lot more distracted. Versus like an older woman where I feel like my maturity could sync up with, because, I feel like I had a fast track to maturity because I migrated to America and I saw two different lives, I saw what I had in America and I wanted to capitalize on it.
I would say it's not necessarily a knock to the younger woman. It's just a lack of experience. I mean, right. I'll be 43 in January. My daughter is 21. I've spoken to her and her friends, and I'm like, yeah, you feel all at 20. You are really 21. Yeah, that's not bad. It's just I was 21 at some point, and if somebody spoke to me in their 40s and be like, oh, this guy, he's not dumb. He just doesn't know stuff yet, and that's okay. Everybody's life is different.
So why is the value placed more on the younger woman versus the older
woman?
Right.
Because it sells, man.
I disagree.
Oh my God.
No, let me just tell you
disagree
guys.
with her.
Okay.
Wait, we skipped over something before you get there.
Okay.
Do you realize when you were talking about the value that they're placing on the women, right, as they get older? One of the things we totally skipped over is we're talking about the pool of their pairs. You know what I mean? So the men who are their age a lot of the good ones, I've heard this numerous times, are gone already. So if she did desire to be with somebody who was around her understanding, who had the same culture, grew up with the same, you know what I mean? So you could share that type of stuff. Like we understand things that are appropriate for our age. Those guys are already gone. So there's that pool of guys who are not there anymore.
Gentlemen, this is the same woman like a couple of weeks ago had the whole controversy about like, you know, affluent women not dating bus drivers.
Right.
You know, so you are automatically, you know, debunking I'm a great guy, you know, and don't ask me, ask my wife. That's my wife's friends, the way I treat my wife. I work very hard on being a good husband, you know, but I could have easily been a bus driver. I have a great career. I have a great salary, 401k. I have a solid stock portfolio, multiple different things going for myself, but I didn't go to college, you know. So the idea of like you only dating in your bracket, you're annexing half of the men that will love you for who you are. Sometimes all you need is to come home and get a foot massage, right?
You know what?
I get
Let me
I
tell
get
you
that.
something. Let me tell you something. And to just piggyback off that, let me just say this on behalf of most men out here, and I can say this with confidence. A man uninspired.
Stop it.
A man uninspired won't do not a damn thing.
Stop it.
A man inspired will literally try to rip down the moon for you. And it doesn't matter what stage they're at in life.
They're not ready.
Any man
They're
you
not
find that is inspired by you.
You can't just say it, bro.
Will do anything for you.
You can't just say it.
So you can't place this. You can't place this like, oh, he needs to make 100K. Dude, he'll make $1 billion if he's inspired by you.
Yeah.
Like,
for real.
You know what I mean? Like he'll do whatever if he's inspired by you. It's just
I hate
absolutely.
Okay, hold on.
Wait, no.
But like, so it kind of debunks the idea of like, oh, he needs to be this status, needs to be this status. I'm like, yo, stop saying he needs to be this status. Maybe it's the fact that he's just not interested in you. Let's talk about that, right? Because a man really interested in you, we pursue, we hunt.
Okay, so
you know what I mean? Like that's what we do. If we're not doing that, then that's the sign. It has nothing to do with your list.
all right, let me flip it for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I hate to keep bringing her up because everybody brings her up, but let's just do away with what we've heard recently about her. So let's just put it like this. So Lizzo.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say she had a perfect personality and things of that nature. Do you think most guys would date her?
Wait, you just said you gave Lizzo a perfect
Say
personality.
it
No,
again.
I'm just saying.
Say it again.
Yeah, she has the perfect personality, but she's still big. I'm just saying, would most guys date her?
No, she has a perfect personality though.
Yeah.
Like what I'm looking for in a personality.
Yeah, guys would date her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
because the question
They just won't buy bananas.
The reason I bring that up is because
They missed that part.
It's because they're saying
Stop.
because the money aspect when it comes to guys, you're like, okay, this guy's not making this amount of money right now, but
Sorry.
but he's a good dude, so you should
Matt
still
just
do
threw
it.
that in there. Y'all don't even.
Matt, stop it.
Wait, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I'm sorry. Start over.
Nuggets.
He totally messed me up. So start over because I want to know what you're saying.
I'm saying the idea is a man is a man. He's a good dude, but he's not really upwardly mobile right now. He's not at that point right now. So for Ebony K. Williams to say, I don't want to date somebody who's a bus driver, is pretty much doing away with a big part of the pool.
Right.
So I'm saying basically, if that is her, if personally she says, I don't want to date somebody that's a bus driver or doing some sort of civil service job, and that knocks me out as well. So she can do that. So in other words, if a guy is saying, well, yeah, Lizzo's probably a great person, she's just not physically where I want to be, he was like, well, or if you're this height and weight, I would never date you. He was like, well, there's a lot of good women that are there. So what? That's just in order to play this game, you have to be these standards. I don't see anything wrong with that on either side. That's just up to you. That's what you want to do. I'm not going to sit down and fault.
No, but I think what we're discussing is whether if society, goes based on those standards, is this good for society? Is it good for us to all go that way? All of us just say people need to have these boxes checked or else they're out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, would that be good for society? Is that a good culture?
Well, I think we're doing that now, and I'm saying if that's really something you're not into,
right?
It's not going to be good for you to just kind of say, oh, I'm just going to take this person just to either get married or whatever. There has to be some sort of affinity for that person.
Of course.
So if you're not meeting the particular standard that I happen to like out of the gate, now we know people age, we know people get older, right. So your body at 20 is not going to be the same at 40. But I'm saying initially, if I'm saying this is what I'm looking for, and you don't have that, and money is an important thing. Let's not get it twisted. Especially if a woman's of childbearing age, if she's making more than you, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant and can no longer work, or has to stay home with the baby, but she's like, nah, come on, you got to keep going because we got to get this medical insurance. But that's important. Those are important things that we have to look at.
Yeah.
No,
for sure.
But I think about it like financially. To me, I mean, I'm probably shifting gears a little bit, but it's like,
are you though?
That no, because I mean, you mentioned something financially.
Oh, okay.
And I think that idea of, because we're talking about society and where we are now, I think most men, we got to kill that idea of men, always trying to be the breadwinner.
Right. Thank you, man.
I think that because the government doesn't care about any of this stuff, because like they're putting all these plans in place for themselves. Their financial plans have financial plans, and they're just making excuses just to raise prices. They're saying the economy is this, and they're just making more excuses to push your goalposts further away. So it's like you cannot. It's making it tougher to either live off of a one income household,
right,
or let's just face it. In our community, most women have, if we're looking at it from income versus like one income per person, in our society, women are gonna have the higher income because they have the degrees. They pursue more of the the degrees that's going to get them into those places. But the thing is, it's like we got to stop being prideful, because like it's just dumb, because like their government is being strategic, and you got to be just as strategic, even more strategic than the ones that's putting all this opposition in front of you. So it's like, I think what happens is we keep playing that game of wanting to, okay, I got to make more than her, or, I can't get with her because I feel intimidated because she's making more than me. Not realizing, if you guys put this together, she might not be good with money, but she knows how to make it. You might be good with money, but you might not be making a lot. You might know how to manage it. She might know how to make it. The point I'm making is be a team, and the more strategic you are, the more you can actually live and try to, stay on top of things. But instead, like we're basing off of this, this sort of archaic mentality of, well, I gotta be the man, I gotta be, it's not, your manhood is not based off of your.
So let me ask you this. Do you think, and I'll open this up to all the women in here as well. Do you think a woman respects a man that doesn't make more than her?
I think that now, because because the pool is getting smaller, I think the standards are changing.
So yes or no?
I say for some, yes.
Yeah, because I think what the narrative that you're talking about, right, in being a team is it's hard concept, right? Because you're the man, you're the provider, and nobody has to tell us that, right? We are natural providers. We are natural, like, okay, we want to do. Some of us are like, we want to do for something that we love. We want to protect something that we love, right? Is that true? Or for most men, yeah,
true.
you want to do that for. So it's not something that nobody necessarily has to tell us to do so. But I feel like if a woman, because of the narrative of that, of what you're saying, when a woman gets in a relationship, a lot of times the discussion has been like, yo, it's hard for her to have that type of level of respect for you if she makes more than you. And sometimes it shows up in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then how do you solve that riddle, rather, right? So you're saying
You gotta be a coach.
one thing is team, but yet as a man who's supposed to be doing this and doing this and that, if she's looking at you as you're supposed to be the provider, but that's not happening, right? Do you lose respect for him?
Like you said, it's a team. If this person is the star, if this person is Steph Curry, I'm gonna make sure he gets open for the shot.
I think it depends on which stage of life you're in too.
We're a
It
team.
depends on what stage of life you're in. So if you're no longer of childbearing, so the reason I brought up, I'm not saying that the man has to make crazy money, but you have to make enough to sustain the lifestyle if she can no longer work. And that's just how that works. Now, if she's no longer of childbearing age, and you don't have to worry about that anymore, she can keep working and you can keep working and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters as much at that point. But you know, like I said, my wife had 5 kids. I've seen swollen feet and can't move for days and all that stuff. So it was important for me to be able to sustain the lifestyle. But you know, if we're both like 40, 50, like 50 years old and our children are grown at that point, then it doesn't matter so much at that point. But you just have to kind of figure out what stage of life you're in.
And that's the best team when they get older, because now you could do better than the young team.
You had experience with an older woman. Go ahead and say it, sir.
Who's better, an older team or a team full of rookies, yo? That's all I'm saying.
Hey.
Like a team that is seasoned.
Matt, I hate
you. can go on vacations. You can have the life.
You trying to
Matt,
draft Gary Payton? He's like
Matt. No, we're
hey, you seen the big 3? That's all I'm saying.
But you do need fresh legs, though.
Yeah, you need some fresh legs.
You need fresh legs.
Yeah, but you could always buy fresh legs if you got the money.
Wait, what?
Oh, where we going, Matt? Tell me what you want to do, Matt. Where we going?
You can always pay for the gym.
Young woman is down for whatever. The older woman's like, where you trying to stick that? We ain't doing that.
So
what do you have to say, sir?
Really quick, I think when we boil down this conversation, I think it's all about being on the same page. You know, because if you're on the same page, then it's communication, right? Like, I feel like communication is the most important tool that you could have in a relationship. You know, like, if you're on the same page, it doesn't really matter how much money is being made as long as the bills are getting paid and everybody's happy in the house, right? You know, like, again, like, I could only speak from my experience. Like, when I met my wife, I was bartending, making 6 figures bartending. She was a sommelier at this like fine dining Italian spot. And our goal was, okay, how do we transition into understanding the means of production and the supply chain, import, distribution, so that eventually we could build something on that and have our own wine, our own rums, and different things like that. So at that time, I was making good money. So what I did was I was like, all right, I'm making good money. You quit your job and you get an entry job in distribution. And I will hold you down until you get that job. And when she got her job, I quit my job when she was making more money than me, and I jumped into distribution. You know, but the foundation was communication from jump, because our whole goal was to purchase a house in 2 years, you know, stop renting, purchase a house, get the kids going, get some kids under our belts and different things like that. You know, so if a woman is making more money than me, I'm like, okay, how can I be better? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean how can I make more money than you, but how can I accept that? right? And how can I make sure that like my ego is not inflated, or I'm not in the idea of the toxic masculinity that ruined my grandfather and my father? You know, how can I put my ego aside and appreciate what I have, you know, and bring something else to the table? How can I keep this woman? You know, how can I make sure that I'm doing so much of my best that she doesn't like belittle me? You know, and if in any reason that happens, how can we have a conversation about it? You know,
Leading you has to do with your performance, or has to do with her?
it's both. Yo, I had this crazy experience with my wife, where we had to have an I feel and I think conversations. We had to separate the conversations, I feel and I think. And one day she said something and I just got pissed off because it just reminded me of what my mom, she almost for 2 seconds, she turned into my mother, you know, and I felt like I had just automatically went on my back leg. And I had to communicate with her. Like, it wasn't what she was saying, but it was a trigger for me that she had no idea was triggering me, you know? So it all boils down to like communication. But it's like a lot of the times we as men, we have to take responsibility for not learning that. We have to take responsibility of our parents not teaching us that, whether it was trauma that they never learned, you know. So all the times I think, rather than pointing the finger out, you know, we need to like try our best to look in and appreciate what we have, you know. And I don't think that's a lot. I don't think that's happening enough. Well, we don't, you know.
So can we define ego for a man real quick? What is that? Because the same ego sometimes that we talk about to not to have, but it's also the same ego you need to have to protect.
Yeah, you know, like,
right? So can we define what ego? Because I'll tell you right now, let me just keep it a buck with you. I am completely not satisfied with me not being the man of my house and not leading my house. Absolutely not. There's no like, and I'm not saying you don't work as a team. Don't get me wrong. It's just maybe that's maybe if you want to call it my growth process or whatever the case may be, you could call it what you can do.
But I feel like
for me, it's no. When I mean that by that is like a lot of times the expectation for you as a guy when you get in a relationship is to lead your household, right? Is that what people's experiences
depends? I think it depends on religious background as well, because we
right,
come
it
from
depends
that.
on your religious background.
Your
right.
religion is
well, I grew up just like you. I grew up. I'm St. Lucian, you know. Okay. But to me, to be the man of my house,
he knows your parents. Huh? He knows your people.
Okay, all right, cool. It's like, but like for me, being the man of my house is
really, Sean. You weren't going to say that.
For me, being the man of the house or being the man means doing what I need to do. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the structures that we learned or like all our parents learned. Because my dad is the man of the house, my grandfather is the man of the house, but that's not the man I want to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that to be a man means that you have to devalue women. And I think that's the misconception sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm this, so then you have to be lesser than this. That's not what I'm alluding to. That's not what I'm talking about at all. What I'm saying is, let's define what is ego. Is ego, because I personally like, let me just frame this correctly.
Are you saying what is the role of ego?
What is it in terms, because it's maybe ego is not the right word. Maybe that's what that is. Maybe when we're talking about that, that's not the right word, because those components is also what makes you a dude. It's also what differentiate you from a female.
Well, right, but
if I am like you,
well,
if I have more estrogen or estrogen-like nature, like yourself, how does a lion protect? How does a lion protect his cubs if he thinks in his mind he's a cub? You know what I mean? Like, and his actions. Meaning like maybe I'm not saying it right, but what I'm saying is
ego. But
I'm saying is like, what is that ego that we keep talking about? Like when we talk about ego, we say, hey, don't have an ego if the woman makes more than you.
Let's go back to the definition of ego, because I think sometimes like words have this like this definition that we literally lean into negative or positive when it's just neutral, and I think that could be a toxicity component to it. that, you know, I think it's the toxicity component. The definition of ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, a boost, aka a boost to my ego. I think it's when the toxicity, when we let that drive, like when we let that the idea of our self-esteem ruin what we have. I think it's when it turns toxic. When we see the woman as, okay, she's making more money than me, then like I'm not worthy, or I have to like be machismo and walk around with my chest up, or I'm insecure versus like just appreciating you having a woman that's making good money. You know what I mean? Like I think when the ego gets in the way is when it's a problem.
You can use that ego feel to channel it towards building up somebody else. So ego is not necessarily like, you know, a thing for just you. You can use your own ego as a man, you know, to build up a woman. Like, you know, for instance, like, yes, you can be the man of your house. There could come a time when, you know, your wife might, you know, get a promotion and start making more than you. But your ego can be channeled into, you know, boosting her up, and in a way that like boosts yourself up in the family, because it's like you're using your ego, I feel, for, you know, for something positive, you know, for building it up, not necessarily feeling that it's devaluing you, but that could be a boost to your ego. Like, wow, look at my wife, she's making good money, like she got a promotion, like it makes you feel good.
Your competition.
I see what y'all saying. I see what y'all saying. But what I want to touch on is the different nuances in these things, right? Because we're talking about it, and everything sounds great, right? Everybody has, but the nuances of a relationship sometimes doesn't have these components. Like we're not always thinking, oh, you know what? My ego's kicking in. I'm gonna. Life don't happen.
Yeah, but
that way,
that's
man.
what emotional. That's what emotional. That's what emotional. That's the value of emotional intelligence, though. Like, because it's like,
Right.
you know, no, we're not. We got to understand that we're not our parents. We appreciate our parents, but I feel like as this generation, we need to take the good from our parents and learn from the bad. Put that together and give it to our kids, you know. And I feel like a lot of our understanding of being the man of the house was taught to us by people that were not always the man of the house, or they used the idea of the man of the house to do a lot of things that ruined the house.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
No, well, yeah, we can say our parents. We can say that, and I think everybody's experience with their parents is different, right? But one thing I can say getting older too is there's a time you get in the space in your life where you can no longer use your parents.
Right.
You can't no longer say, oh, this is because my parents did this. Like, you're old enough to make decisions now, to decide that I'm going to be this way, or whatever choice that you made. But I think for me is like, one thing I can say is, let me just put it this way. If iron sharpens iron, right? We say that often, right? Iron sharpens iron, right? There are certain things that I am not going to get from a woman. There's certain things I need to go talk to the fellas about. There's certain sharpness I need to go speak to you about. There's certain like testosterone, for lack of a better word, right? That I need to go see about this guy. Let me go talk to Matt real quick, because certain things. So what I'm also getting to is the fact that because everything is so convoluted and just everything is just be this and just be that, I am deeply concerned about what the essence of a man is in today's society. Like, it's not there.
I just wanted to kind of,
you know what I mean, and that's the thing I'm delving to, is because yes, we can be like I don't want to be like a woman. I don't want to think like a woman. I don't want to, like, there's a part of me that I actually enjoy, you know, and I need to be me. I can't be you. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, what is this?
so
You know, like, there are things as a man I'm not going to understand.
yeah.
And it's okay. There's things as a woman you're never going to understand coming from a man's perspective. And that's okay. But I can't just every single thing, oh, how can I be so? No, I don't understand. Yo, go talk to your girls.
Yeah.
I don't get it. let me talk to, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is. And it's just, I can't be, I think this is what I'm getting at. This is so mixed up where like, where's the guys?
Yeah.
Where's the men in this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say that I think feminism, as it stands in 2023, has done a disservice to not only women but men right now. I think that I'm not knocking feminism. I think there was a purpose for feminism. I think when it came about in the 60s, there was a reason. That was a valid reason for, and it just kind of, we were talking about pendulum swings. I think that there's been a pendulum swing with feminism that has devalued that essence of a man. And so now it's leaving men in this kind of state of, some men, not all men, in this state of kind of confusion. Like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to be now? Because to be a man is not good. What we used to define as a man is no longer valued. You should be more like a woman to be a man of value. So I think that's doing women a disservice, because women are looking for the traits that they would usually find in their girlfriends, their female friends. They want that in a husband, but you just want a girlfriend. You don't want a husband. So to I don't know what the lady's name was, but to that point, I think that maybe there's a lot of that's been missing in that conversation about women having this expectation because of society right now, expecting, men to be like women. And that's not what we need. It may be what we want, but it's not what we need. And that pendulum swing has gone, I think, a little too far, where we've dismissed, and now that they're even saying, like, I think my daughter had a college, like a college webinar thing, what colleges are looking for right now. And it's gotten to the point where colleges are trying to woo men, young men, back to school, because women are coming in droves, but the young men are dropping off. And I think part of that is because of this kind of state of, there's like an existential crisis that is going on with men, because they're not sure who to be. And it's affecting everywhere, but we're not talking about it because you're going to be labeled as a misogynist.
Right.
If you
or
say
you're
something
aggressive,
about it.
or you're
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's probably what is missing. That might be what we actually need in order to kind of get back to center a little bit. So.
Yeah, and I don't think colleges cater to men
put, by
very
the way.
well either.
Well put.
Men, colleges don't really cater to men, really. A lot of them have become quote unquote safe spaces. A lot of them require you to sit down and like read books all day. Reading books are great, but a lot of men, because of the testosterone, don't really learn that way. I mean, you can see that even in grade school. Like with my children, my boys, they don't sit down for more than 5 minutes. So it's a lot different. It's a lot different. Yeah. But also, to your point, there is a sense is where we have to kind of meet in the middle. So men are not going to be over feminized. That's not good for men at all. The same, it would help to be a little softer sometimes. It's like, you gotta have to find the middle. He's like, I don't want my wife to come and say, hey, Dwayne, I need to talk. It's like, stop, I'm going to work. So, I'm in a relationship with a woman, not myself. So there is a sense in where when it's necessary, you have to be a little softer.
And we also have to remember that like feminism also blocked black women in the 70s and the 80s. There was like the feminism, the idea of feminism was, was not, there was no invite for the black woman in feminism until recently, so it's something that we need to work on. But like you said, I do agree with you. Like it is a balance, because I enjoy being soft sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, but these are the rooms that I appreciate so much, because it reminds me of what I love about the barbershop, because I think something that they took away from us in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s was community centers. We had community centers where we were able to come in and we were able to have conversations and realize that we were not living in the echo chambers, that we all go through the same things in different facets. But, if I knew that we were going through the same things, I would be like, all right, then I guess it's not that bad for me, because, but I think they took that away from us. So now we have to redefine what masculinity is. in a world where like it's telling us that being masculine is bad sometimes.
Well,
No, it is telling us it's bad.
Yeah,
that's what they're
But
saying.
you have to define what type of masculinity we're talking about.
Right.
So the masculinity when I grew up is like, men don't cry. We don't.
That's
we
toxicity,
don't-
toxic
right,
masculinity.
Right. So you don't communicate all that much. You're a man of a few words because you don't want people to think that you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
But that wreaks havoc on a marriage. Like if I'm, I've been with my wife for, it'll be 16 years in November. So in the beginning, it's like my kids would come up to me. It's like, why doesn't daddy cry at all? It's like, he's sad. He looks sad. He just doesn't cry at all. And it's weird. I still haven't, but I've gotten better in other areas.
That's beautiful,
So
and that's beautiful. That's so
question,
beautiful.
right?
Like,
This word toxicity has when was the birth of this thing?
it's always been there.
No, I'm tired of this thing.
It's always
I
been
really
there.
am tired of it. 'Cause everything is. You're so toxic. You said this. Oh my God,
Wait a
you're
minute.
toxic. Look how you talk to me. You're
I
toxic.
feel like toxicity
What
is
are we
a,
talking about, guys? Like it's like you can't even talk
it's a
anymore.
pendulum though. But like going back to the
Everything
idea
is
of the
toxic.
pendulum swing, right?
When did it start?
I got the answer. Well, I don't know when it started, but I know when to define it in myself. Going back to the pendulum swing, right? It's
Right.
like toxicity is when it's all the way to the right or it's all the way to the left. And it's something that we needed to have a conversation about.
So then, why is that only? So then, I've heard that, and whoever's gonna answer, I've heard the toxicity, but whenever I hear it, it's usually directed towards men.
So that was my next
Most
question.
of the time, I hear it is directed towards men.
So we ran the world for like 500.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Whenever I hear toxicity, I hear it's mostly directed towards men. So I'm wondering, where does that toxicity? Where does the word toxicity? Who came up with when did that?
It wasn't a man.
No, who came up with that?
That's all I could tell you. It wasn't the man who made it up.
No, because it's just
The dudes were enjoying themselves.
They probably came along with gaslighting.
Oh,
There you go.
I
Yeah.
feel like it just kind of like,
Yep.
yeah, it's been yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody got to take the mic.
Yes.
it's toxicating. Somebody has who has the mic?
Oh, Tyler.
No, I just wanted to. I don't know if you guys, but toxic femininity. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that term,
No.
but
Barely.
I want to see what you guys think about that because I've had conversations with girlfriends about this. Growing up in the church and hearing this whole thing, like in scripture, that there's a scripture that talks about the older women admonishing the younger women, right, as they're coming up, and that was something I never saw in the church. What I usually saw was older women being jealous of younger women to the point of this woman saying, as you get older, you're not as desirable. So there's like this bitterness going on. And I always kind of took that as that's toxic femininity, this kind of thing that's going on. And I never hear that being said, toxic femininity, but I think it also has place for some of the ways that, because women, when you think of a woman, especially the formative years of a person's life, it's the mom that kind of, cultivates the person. And I'm not saying that men don't have their place in responsibility for the issues of life, right? But I think that because we're so focused on the man, that we're missing that opportunity to kind of be instructive towards women about toxic femininity, because there's things like that mama bear syndrome where you kind of just, my baby can do no wrong, kind of thing, and those types of things that really do deteriorate a marriage, deteriorate relationships, deteriorate the kid's sense of self. And so that person turns into an adult now, and they can't function because those formative years were filled with that dysfunction that came from the mom, to be honest with you.
There's an actual pretty point, like there's a point, because in those situations, one, mama bear syndrome usually comes from abandoned women. So in a sense, abandoned women with child. Usually if that child happens to be a male child, there's almost like a siring of that man.
I disagree that it comes from mostly single women. Because
from
I hang out with a lot of women who are not single,
Right.
and it's just as strong.
Well, no, I'm gonna get to that. So it's not necessarily always that, but it could be some deficiency within the marriage as well, because there are certain times where a lot of times in those marriages, especially in the church, those women are bred in an area of competition. So now, because they don't have the gaze of their husband, and that husband may be looking at the younger woman in the church, she's not going to want to give that woman any type of advice. She now sees that person as an adversary, which is in the church, a lot of the older women are adversarial toward the younger for that reason, because their husbands aren't necessarily looking at them. They're looking, they now have the attention of the younger, they have their attention on the younger woman. Why? So what do you mean, why? Why what?
Why do they have that?
Why don't they have the attention?
Because let's just keep it a stack. Let's keep it a buck. A woman in her 20s is a bit more perky than a woman in her 40s.
Heck no. No.
Well, let's do this.
No.
Hey,
and I disagree.
Dwayne, go ahead.
Disagree.
Dwayne, talk
I
about
disagree,
it.
but go on.
Dwayne, talk about it. Talk about it. No, let him finish. Let Dwayne finish.
And I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm saying
no, it's not about being good or not. I think you're completely wrong.
No, you're saying men.
I think you're completely wrong.
Two things. And two things. Men are visual.
Okay.
Number two.
Yeah.
Women, as we've said, who are in their 20s are much easier molded than the woman in her 40s.
Sure. Now you get into the truth.
Listen, hey.
So smart, Matt. Now you get into the truth.
Huh?
So what's
From this toxic masculinity hole.
Dwayne, keep going. Keep going, Dwayne.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with
there is. There is.
Let him finish. Keep going, Dwayne.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
Okay. Are we listening now?
Keep going.
Are we listening now?
Yes.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them.
I am saying that there's something wrong with him.
Let him finish.
I want him to finish too.
Yeah.
Do.
Shut up, then.
Finish. Get there, baby.
So, let him finish.
What I'm saying is,
yes,
for the person that is looking for eye candy, if you have a wife, if they have not kept their lusts at bay, they are no longer looking at the wife of their youth. They're looking at other women who are younger and more desirable to their eye.
Okay.
So, if that is the case, the older women, because they're not dumb, they know that this is happening. They're no longer seeing the woman that they're supposed to be teaching and helping grow and helping them to love their own husbands. Instead of seeing them to do that or trying to help, they are seeing them as adversaries now, which is bringing about the situation that Tandy is talking about. I'm not,
I think that's wrong.
Why we go to church is to not full and to be all of ourselves.
No, that's not the
wait. That was sarcasm. That was sarcasm. That's why I'm a Buddhist.
No, let me tell you this.
That's why I'm a Buddhist. But
when you said,
that was sarcasm.
You said that, right? That's actually quite funny. It's the cesspool of lust.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. It's like,
wait, hold up.
Come on.
That's why. Again, that's another reason why I denounce the church.
Church is the cesspool of lust.
Yeah, but like, okay, going back, right? So,
go ahead.
So I practice Nichiren Buddhism, and Nichiren Buddhism is about the idea of we all have this light, right? I think it's synonymous to being Christ-like, right? Which is a conversation I think that's not. It should be more normal in the church. The idea of being Christ-like, and that should be something that we should all try to be like. In Nichiren Buddhism, we understand that we are all our inner Buddhas. We all have that light in ourselves. So that was sarcasm. I apologize. I don't mean to. But going back to like the idea of like, it's toxic masculinity that perpetuates in older women that allows them to act like that. So is it toxic femininity or is it toxic masculinity being manifested in a feminine body? That's my first question. And my second thing is, it is terrible that we as older men can't have younger women around us that we can be friends with, that we can help support, help build without the idea of lust. Let me tell you why, right? When I was in high school, I was a fuck boy. You know, I had multiple different goals. Like, the staircase was my bedroom. Like, I was like really terrible in high school. Like, I was horrible in high school. But then I found this one young lady that I was like, you know what? There's something about you that reminds me of Oprah Winfrey. Like there's money. You just remind me of money. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I point out every fuck boy so that you know not to be with them. You know, and you know, on like a year and a half ago on her birthday, her mom came up to me and her mom was like, yo, thank you so much. Because as a single mother, I had to raise 3 girls. And because I knew that my older girl was with you guys, you and her other brother that we like, me and my best friend adopted her basically in high school. And her mom thanked us for like being that like shield for her in the world. And you know, she's the one that brought me my wife. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is like,
You get a wife. You get a wife. You get a wife.
You know, yeah. So thank you, Oprah. Thank you very much.
Stop it,
It just breaks my heart that the church, like, you know, it just breaks my heart that older women can't be friends with younger women because of the man, and we're calling that toxic femininity versus seeing that it's toxic masculinity being influencing a woman.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Here we go with
Okay, now, I'm gonna say no. Now I'm gonna answer that question.
Just think about it.
Go ahead.
It's because of toxic masculinity. Now here's the thing. You're gonna notice, okay, if your wife, the condition of your wife later on in life depends on how you treat her. So if she's an ugly looking duck, who took part in that?
All right, let me tell you them good.
If she is as pretty as can be, who helped take care of it?
Listen,
but that's what I'm talking about, because you talk about the man and the role and all of that. That is your part as a man.
Absolutely. So then,
the way you condition that relationship, that was your lead.
That's my lead. Gotcha.
So it's just like this: a king. The people in the village are conditioned by how the king treats them. If the people are poor, then how is the king treating the people? You know, it's the same thing in a relationship. It's the same thing with a classroom. You know what I'm saying? Like if the kids can't get past 2 + 2, you know, then no. But I'm saying it's part of the conditioning.
So let me just say this.
That's part of the
Let me just say this, and I'll say this for everybody. Anybody could jump in, right? I 100,000% agree. I say that, like what you're saying in terms of that's your fault, that's your responsibility. That's okay with me. I'm good with that. I will take full responsibilities for the failures or whatever the case may be. But what I am also going to say, that means that the rules is different. If I'm going to take the blame for responsible for you, then the rules for me and you is a little different of how this relationship runs. It just is. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what you do, I take blame for it.
Well, that's going to happen anyway.
I'm cool with that.
That's going to happen anyway.
I'm cool with that. Then the rules for me and you is not the same.
No, it's not. It can be.
Well, then that's what I'm. So then when we're talking about masculinity in men, sure, I'll take the responsibility for you. I'll take the fault for you. Yep. That didn't work. It's my fault. The relationship didn't work. It's my fault. Yep. This didn't work. It's my fault. You're the way you are. It's not by your own choice. It's because it's my fault.
Yeah.
Right? No. But you see, this is where it lies, though. This is where the lines are.
Yeah.
Because
not everything.
What you're saying is, she doesn't hold no bearings to her own action.
No, that's not.
No. But what I'm saying is, when that is said, oftentimes nobody digs in to say, okay, here's what it is. Everybody's responsible for their own behavior, right? What I'm telling you, I'm okay. I am completely okay if I am responsible for you. I'm completely okay if you do something. No, I genuinely am. Like, I feel what you're saying. I feel like, listen, if something happens and I'm like, man, you know what? I could have done something to prevent that and to help her out. I'll take responsibility for that, right? All I'm saying, too, at the same time, the rules for me and you can't be the same, though.
Right.
They just can't. So is that toxic masculinity for expecting that?
No.
Because you can't go to the government and expect equal treatment if like you can't go to anybody that protects you, provides for you, and do all that stuff for you and talking about, yeah, I want to be equal to you, and then this needs to be that, and I'm veering off to this whole equality thing, which I don't believe in. But what I'm saying is, sure,
Well, that's what you're saying, though.
I'll take responsibility for you.
Right.
But just do understand that we're not the same.
Well, yeah, that has to be that way.
Well, I'm just saying.
There's no way you could have your cake and eat it too.
That's what I'm saying.
There you
Sometimes they want their cake and eat it too.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about women.
Yeah.
You want to be
I'm on
protected,
top, but you gotta
wanna,
protect
you
me.
want to be the one that, like, it's your fault I'm like this.
Yeah.
Okay, bet.
Right.
Well, no,
It's my
I mean,
fault.
no. Nobody's saying that there's a lack of accountability. I'm saying you.
That's
have to
why he said he was half right. But that's why he said he was half right.
I'm saying that, and speaking of men, because we're men at the table, and I'm a man myself. I'm saying you have to take responsibility for what is your fault. So
Your
if,
portion,
so if my
exactly.
wife,
Right.
if my wife is getting jealous because of the attention I'm giving some other woman, she's not wrong, and that's my fault.
That is,
I'm not.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about, regardless of whether you take accountability, she takes accountability, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, if something happens, guys, let's keep it a buck, bro.
Yeah.
Something happens in any relationship, nobody's looking at you. Nobody's looking at the women. They're looking at you, bro. If something happens, if a cop pulls in right now and these wonderful ladies here says, these men have been doing something
Good
to me,
point.
guess what, brothers? Ain't no
Yeah,
conversation.
but to go back to what you're saying.
No, let's pause right there real quick before
You're
we jump
right,
into
you're
that. This is what I'm saying. There's no conversation to be had. The law will take you. So what I'm saying is, regardless of how cute we want to say everything, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the law and people that are in charge and how they perceive men, they're going to take you first. No words, no ifs and buts. Child support, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you have a bad relationship, that woman can destroy your life through child support. Even if you was a good father, she can say one thing and completely destroy your life. I've seen it. I've had family members that are experiencing it. And what I'm saying is, all right, bet. That's how you want to do us? Okay, good. We're going to take responsibility. But then that means that the rules for me and you cannot be different.
Right.
Cannot be the same.
And that's why I'm going back to your point, right? Because to me, like, I got a lot of girlfriends. Like, I have a lot of friends. You also have to understand when it's like, okay, like, she's young, she's in the church. We're like, I'm going to be friendly. But when is it a point where it's like, okay, I'm just being friendly. There's no lust. There's nothing involved. And I think that's when it transforms into, okay, this is not my problem. You need to figure this out yourself.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Whenever it comes to, and I don't know if it's true for the other end, but I know women, they judge men based on the collective. So they judge men based on who their fathers were, who their uncles were, who the men in their particular circle was, and that's how they're going to believe the man in their life is until they do something to change that. So a woman may be jealous just because you just said hi to somebody. At that point, it's not so much you, it's more so her, but if you're married to that woman, you have to kind of help them to see that that's not the case.
Totally,
so there have been times where my wife saw something about a man on the internet and I caught smoke.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, I was sleeping. But no, but she, that's an oversimplification, of course, because, Shakia is not like that. But I'm just saying there have been times where we've had long conversations about what Kevin Samuel says. I was like, that nigga don't live here. Like, why are we talking about it? But so that's how it is. But it's just about knowing who you're with, who your wife is, and if because of how she grew up, she may be overly jealous. She may not see things the way that they are. That's where we do the work in trying to heal that.
It all boils down to communication. Like it all boils down to communication. Because again, like, you don't know whether she's coming into the relationship with that trauma, or whether and whether you're triggering it by mistake. And it will all get solved, and it will all get healed through that conversation, that communication, where it's like the I think versus the I feel, and less finger pointing, more listening. And it's something that even like me, I'm also reminding myself of this in this present moment,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marissa.
One more point. I think that we need to address the fact that, a woman might say, oh, I want a man, I want to be equal. I want a man that doesn't have toxic masculinity, that is sensitive. But we still want a man. You know, we still want a man to be a man, like when it counts. Like if somebody's breaking into the house, I'm not trying to get that bat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, kudos all my sisters that, you know, have gun licenses, etc. But at the end of the day, like we still want a man. We don't want, I don't want a version of myself. You know, I still need a man. I still need a man to be a man. And it's not saying that, you know, he has more value than me or I feel like devalued or whatever, but I feel like I need a man in a relationship. It's all well and good about, oh, we can, you know, split the finances, you know, I can take care of this, I can do that, you know, the child care, you know, I want him to help out when he comes home and take care of the kids, all that. But at the end of the day, a woman will end up resenting that man if he is too much like her. If it's too much like yourself, the resentment is going to come in and you're going to lose respect for that man because you still want a man. Yeah, and I'm not saying, you know, you want a toxic man or whatever, but you still want, in essence, a real man.
And I think we also have to keep in mind that all relationships are different. So it's not cookie cutter. So basically, Keegan. Okay. So your relationship would be different from the Judeo-Christian or church, you know. That's how my wife and I started off. So it's different, and we've been able to tool it in a sense to where it works for us. What works for me is not going to necessarily work for everybody. So there might be somebody who's like, yes, because I'm the breadwinner of home. So that's what works for us. That's not going to work for everybody. And that's just how we just tooled it out.
Yeah, I agree. There are different nuances in every relationship, right? So you can't just say this one should be like this one. I think that when we're talking about this in the grand scheme of thing, in terms of like narratives, like for example, we're in this podcast and we're having dialogue, we're having conversation, right? We might have more dialogue after this. We might have dialogue outside of this. You know, somebody might watch it 2 months from now, right? And have dialogue about that. And I think that it's important to balance the scale a little bit. In terms of saying like, hey, just like you're asking us to accept who you are as a person, in terms of your life choices, like if you decide that, you know, you're a gay man or whatever the case may be, just like you're asking us to do that, you also have to respect the fact that I am a man, right? And you can't ask me to be you, and you can't put things in the system, right, to influence my kids to be you. You have to give them a choice. You have to let me lead my kids, and don't do that. And I know I'm going to the educational world, but what I'm saying is the narrative. Like we're older, we're you know in this space, right? And then we can differentiate certain things and we can articulate certain things, but like the younger community cannot. And if there's not more narratives in terms of like how do we balance this out, right? And not everything being like yo, this is toxic because you said this. Like I'm telling you something for your good, and it's toxic, right? like it's getting that petty now,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right. No, I do agree, because like you said, we constantly talking about this pendulum, and I think that, you know, when we look back on why are we where we are today, or before we started kicking around the term toxicity and this patriarchal system, you have to recognize that yes, there was abuse. The abuse is real. So it's like you have to unpack all of that, and you have to realize, well, there's a root cause to this, and it's trying to navigate. It's almost like, okay, we gotta uproot whatever it is, whatever we knew, whatever masculinity is in a relationship, or just or even fatherhood, for that example, because masculinity plays a role in fatherhood. It's like we got to unpack that and figure out, okay, well, what was abusive, what's not. And then, but the thing is, what the problem is, it like you said, it goes that far to the other end of the spectrum, to where it's like it almost has no identity. So like, yeah, you're right. We got to continue to have these conversations, because we've uprooted a lot of stuff, because we realize, okay, and I think Keegan was alluding to that, like, yeah, like our fathers and grandfathers and people in that generation, didn't always have it right. People talk about those were the good old days, but it wasn't because
Right.
you know they was. I mean, like people come home with bloody lips, black eyes, and child abuse and you know sex abuse. That stuff is real, and it affected us and affected our society. You know, so like we got to uproot a lot of that stuff, but in uprooting it, we kind of took, you know, we took that term, or we took even maybe some of the value out of masculinity. But now it's like we gotta still navigate this and realize, okay, well, this is where we need to have a standard. This is where we need to have values and standards on what is masculinity. Let's redefine masculinity and take everything that's good and we build upon that. You know, but yeah, you're right. If we're not going to have that conversation, it's just going to swing all the way left to the point where the stuff just doesn't make sense anymore. You know, even with feminism or femininity, like, yeah, that swung on the other end of the spectrum. You know, like it got lost. Like I think you alluded to that. Like there was a reason for it. You know, because women were treated like garbage. You know, so women had their voice needed to be heard. You know, there has to be some level of empathy. There has to be some line of respect. You know, and if the woman can't be the woman, that's why I said in the team, you know, yeah, the man has to be the coach. And I think Marissa was saying that, like, we can build on that. If she has the hot hand, I'm gonna always pass it to her. Because like as far as the coach, you know, my job is to make the team better.
You understand back?
Yeah, so like I'm gonna build the team up. I'm gonna keep building the team up. And if the team, you know, the star is always gonna be more famous than the coach. You know, but nobody forgets the coach. The coach is gonna look at the players, and they're the ones that make the rules. They draw the plays, regardless of the coach might not even shoot as good as the player. But the thing is, the coach knows the plays to put that player in position to take the shot. And I think like that's the part where we got to look at leading. We got to look at, you know, I mean, these are some of the conversations that need to be had, especially when we talk about masculinity. I know this is.
Listen, it's been great conversations, man, and to our guests, you guys have been absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
This is good. I feel like we need to have guests every time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And to the producer of the show, of course, always lit up in here, man. Fake cool. Love you, man. Listen, we are out of time, y'all, and it's been good. It was a great conversation. Our usuals, Ricky, Dwayne, y'all understand. Y'all already know.
So,
Make for great conversation, man. And yo, Uninvited